Hello and welcome to another edition of 67 Hail Hail. I am your host, John McGinley, joined here by Asim to discuss a Celtic victory over Ross County. We went into the weekend 9 points clear, Asim. We've come out of it 9 points clear. How are you feeling after that? What was a pretty, almost a roller coaster of a 90 minutes, I would suggest.
Yeah, I think the main word for me is relief after that. I said to you just off air there, I was a nervous wreck for the second half. Probably shouldn't be. We should probably obviously trust the players in this group that they'll see the job out. But there was points in that second half, and I was just itching for that second goal just to give us the comfort. Very similar to kind of previous games we've had at Dingwall, I think, where we were one up and then we get the clincher quite late on just to finish it. But yeah, we'll touch on the game, I'm sure. But yeah, overriding feeling of kind of just relief and just glad that we're going into next week still nine clear.
I don't know about you, but I actually found that a really interesting 90 minutes. I'm not sure if it's because we're coming out of an international break and I was just so excited to see Celtic and get back into talking about Celtic things again, or it was because there was, a slight reshuffle in the midfield,
Yeah.
or kind of what it was, or the way kind of County had a little bit of momentum at the start of that second half. I just found it an interesting 90 minutes overall, and we'll get into a few different issues here. I think just to start off, before we get into the performances of individual players, we'll kick off with the goals. Asim. Obviously, we had the penalty just before half time. Jota scored from the penalty spot. How did you see the penalty incident with the handball? I found it, just to kick you off, I found it a little bit odd in the commentary on Sky, in that Andy Walker seemed adamant that it hit
Yeah.
Cameron and Carter Vickers' shoulder, but it clearly hit the boy's arm for me. And given the way a lot of penalty decisions have gone this season, I think we were due something like that. Would you not agree?
Yeah, I found Andy Walker's take on it and insistence on it quite odd and irritating. I just found, yeah, because like you said, it's one of those that in previous seasons or generally you'd be disappointed as a defending team if it's given against you. But given what we've seen this season, given some of the penalty decisions which have been baffling, that one to me pretty much ticks the box of what the apparent rule is now. As to his arm was outstretched. To me, it looked pretty clear cut.
Mm.
Stonewall penalty decision. So I couldn't see what the pundits were all so shocked at. Yeah, in the bigger picture, obviously, it's the handball issue is one that we've all spoke about, and it is a bit of a shambles in terms of the inconsistencies of it all. But I felt at the time I didn't even click on. I just thought I was ready for it just to go to half time, and I was ready for a 0-0 at half time, and on we go. But once I seen it again, I was like, yeah, surely Willie's going to give that.
So if you're wondering where Mr. Hamish Catton is today, he's actually at a wedding this afternoon, and he messaged me at half time saying he missed the goal because, like you, he assumed it was just going into the break and headed off to the toilet as Jota stuck his spot kick away. So that's what Hamish is up to this afternoon, if anyone is wondering. The second goal, Assam, absolute stunner from Alexandro Bernabei. I think maybe a few people were a little bit nervous him coming on for Greg Taylor, and then he produces something like that, which is easily his best moment in a Celtic shirt so far, an absolute beauty.
Yeah, he's the jury's still out on him in terms of his performances, and with Greg Taylor being so consistently good, it's always a concern when he comes off. I just think Greg Taylor's such an important part of this team now. But
Mm.
Bernabei came on, and yeah, I think that's huge for him. Hopefully, this is gives him a bit of extra confidence because even there was points in that game before the goal, which again I just felt his passing was a bit erratic, and but the strike itself was brilliant and. It was great because I think there was still 4 or 5 minutes left of injury time at that point. So, the game was far from done. So just to get that second goal and see his celebrations, hopefully that'll help him kick on from there. And he can, I don't know what Taylor's situation is, but he might be called upon next week now
Yeah.
if Taylor's out. So that's a big one.
We'll be keeping our fingers crossed on Taylor, of course. Everyone wants him fit for the derby, regardless of Bernabei's big moment there. The hope with Taylor is you hope it's just some sort of dead leg or just a kind of knock, a clash that he just manages to come back up from rather than be some sort of injury that keeps him out. But I'm sure we'll hear word on that, over the coming hours and days. We'll get into some of the other aspects of the performance then. I think that the midfield was causing a lot of discussion today.
Yeah.
Obviously, we were missing Aaron Moy and Rio Hatate as something just falls off my wall behind me. We're we're missing Aaron Moy and Ray Otati, so Tomoki Awati came into the team and McGregor was shifted into a slightly more advanced role. There was always going to be spotlight on Awata today. For me, I think there's multiple aspects when you consider his performance and the midfield performance. First of all, I think Awata as an individual looks like he has talent. I think it's clear. You know, he's got a good touch. He's physical. He carries himself well in duels. I thought even towards the end of the game, he came back into the game after perhaps dropping out a little bit at the start of the second half, and you know that showed fortitude as well. He didn't hide. He kept going and helped us in those closing minutes. Callum was less influential because he was more further forward. And so for me, it was less about Awata as an individual today and more that I feel like McGregor is just so crucial for us in front of that defence. He's just so well oiled and adept at playing our football out from the defence and offering an outlet for our defenders, which I think County managed to exploit a little bit at the start of that second half.
Yeah, I agree. I thought in isolation, Iwata's performance was fine, and any time I've seen him, he looks like a good player. It's more just what it takes away from the overall fluidity and functionality of our team. I think when McGregor isn't that pivot, that one that's receiving the ball from the back line, I just think he's so good at that. And you've seen it in the past as well when maybe Beatons came in and played that role. And again, I always feel like they take something away from the team when Callum isn't there. Added to the fact, you look at two of our most creative midfielders, since the turn of the year, and Hitati and Moy aren't there. So it is a lot more added impetus on Iwata and O'Reilly and McGregor to be creative. And I just think maybe at times we just lack that. I don't think O'Reilly had a particularly great game. But the midfield in general, I don't think we look as fluent when Callum's not there, and that's not a slight on Iwata and his performance. I think there's plenty of games where he'll be effective in there. I think, as you mentioned, towards the end of the second half, I thought Callum kind of dropped deeper again, and that maybe allowed Iwata to flourish again, and he looked stronger, and he was getting in the challenges and things like that. So you're right. I think there's a number of things to look at. I don't think people can look at that and just think Iwata's came in and we've not been as good. It is more the Callum McGregor impact, I think, which impacts us so heavily.
I'm glad we've tried to find some sort of nuance there, Asim, because I don't want it to come across as we're slating Iwata's performance and we're slating, the team today. It's not really about that. It's just that I think it says more about how good Callum McGregor is in that specific role and how influential he is for us in that specific role. And you would really want Callum McGregor back in there for next week's match. With hopefully Hitati and Moy coming back into things. I again, just to touch on it, we obviously missed Hitati's incisiveness in the opposition half, but for me, I thought we really missed Aaron Moy in spells today. He's so composed, and Anne just talked about his calmness and his mentality as a real benefit and strength of this team this season. And I think we just, again, lacked that a little bit in the second half. I think Moy would have been ideal for kind of helping us regain control of that game and regain our composure in spells. But as you say, and as we've mentioned, we did come back into it. And I think, again, the positive is that, a lot of that was to do with the strength of our bench and, the impact of the players who came off the bench today. I thought O added a real spark to our performance. Haksabanovic added a spark to our performance. And so when you've got players like that who can come in and really help us see out games, not see out games in the sense of grinding out, but see out games and exploiting what the opposition are doing at that point, I think is just such a huge strength to this team and probably why we've been so incredibly relentless in our form.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it throughout this season, it's the most injuries we've had. Maybe I think we've got 5 that would normally be in the matchday squad that were not available today in Ralston, Forrest, Moy, Hitati and Abada. So all 5 of those usually would be in the match squad. So for those 5 not to be available, but still we've got a strong looking bench. Obviously we've got a couple of the younger boys in there as well today. But as you've mentioned, I thought we used the subs effectively again today to take control of that game. There was, in the middle of that half, County had quite a few chances at the start of it, and then I think in the middle of the half when we made the changes around the 70-minute mark, we took control again and looked a lot more threatening on the break. And I think that's the best I've seen Ole in terms of his impact today. You've really seen it. Like obviously Andrew's been raving about him in general, and we've seen glimpses of it. But I just thought he was a right handful today. That touch that he took down, in our half and then got his shot away. That was a brilliant piece of play. But just overall in general, his performance today, I thought, was a lot to take encouragement from. And yeah, again, we weren't at our fluent best, but as you said, it shows the strength of our squad. You've got so many players missing today, but we managed to get the job done. We've managed to use the bench effectively again.
Asim, I really like the look of O, and I
Yeah,
don't want to get too excited because it's still so early for him, and there's still a long way to go for him. But I just really like the look of him. He's got something about him that I think is going to be exciting for us.
yeah,
And I think you can see him increasing in confidence too.
yeah,
And Ange kind of spoke about, it was his first time going away from Scotland to South Korea, a big trip. And Ange had interesting comments before the game where he was like, "Oh, came back on Thursday early and just went right to Lennox Town. He didn't have a day off, just went right to the training ground to as Ange said, blow the cobwebs
yeah,
off of that trip." And I think he's so determined and eager to do well at Celtic. And having someone with that hunger coming off the bench is massive. You want a talented player as a kind of backup or alternative to Kyogo, but you want a player who's really hungry to show something off the bench, and I think that's what we've got in a player like O. And I think even a player like Haksabanovic, he might not have started as many games as he may have liked to this season, but again, he always comes off the bench with such enthusiasm, and again, he's spoken in the press as well about his happiness at playing a squad role at Celtic at the moment, and I think that speaks volumes to the kind of energy that Ange is building overall.
yeah. And when Ange kind of speaks and pinpoints players individually, like he has done with O this week, or just after the kind of Hibs game when he was saying that this guy's going to be a big player for us, you really take notice because it's not often he does that. He did similar with Iwata, which again is why I'm quite excited to see him develop and grow, because when Ange is quite fulsome in his praise about these kind of players and players he's seen quite a bit, and you kind of take that on board and think, right, okay. And I think today again, you're right with O. You just seen he's got such an energy and a determination about him. Haksabanovic again, I think every time he comes on for me, he's a nuisance. He causes, he missed that one today, and I was shocked because it's usually the one that he puts in the far corner. I don't know if it took a wee bobble on the pitch, but he was a nuisance. He's a handful, and like everyone's kind of contributing. They're all making big contributions now. You've got Bernabei coming on. I thought Alistair Johnson was probably our man of the match. We've not even spoke about him yet,
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
thought he's just growing week on week in, week out now. He's getting better for me. So it's a great position to be in, and I seen Ange obviously made comments about Abada as well, who there was a bit of chat over the international break, but it seems like Ange is quite content with that situation. So hopefully we can get these guys back, and we're one more game closer, 8 games to go now. And what I thought today was a really big one, similar to Ross County last season this time of year. It was the game before the home game against Rangers, and you just wanted to make sure you don't give them any kind of hope or drop any points. And the consistency we're showing is brilliant, John. And I think we can all go into next week full of confidence.
It's funny because I agree with you, and we've spoken about it. There were periods of that game where Ross County looked like they were coming into it a little bit. But if you think about it, I don't think they really ever truly troubled us in any great dramatic sense. We looked a bit ragged at the times. They
Yeah,
were pressing us well at points, and it was getting a bit hectic. But I wouldn't say Celtic were ever in any danger today at all, really. So that's always important to keep in mind as well, because I think as supporters and because we're so invested in the team,
yeah,
we kind of look for little things and little things that have gone wrong or little things that have gone well and perhaps magnify them a little bit too
yeah,
much. I think if you looked at that game in the cold light of day, and we're obviously coming on to this directly after it, the full time whistle, it's always a bit tougher to have a bigger perspective of the whole match. I think if you looked at that game in the cold light of day, I think you would say Celtic were in full control of the 3 points. Although the first half was a little bit stodgy, Ross County came into it a little bit in the second half. Celtic
yeah,
then finished the game really strongly, and you touched on it there. But we created so many chances today
yeah.
that we would ordinarily put away. Kyogo had a absolute, almost I would describe as a sitter in the middle of the goal.
All right.
After brilliant work from Maeda in the second half that he should have put away. Stuff like that would go in on any other day and make the day even more comfortable than it ended up being. I wanted to touch on something you said there though, because I was going to bring him up. and it was Alistair Johnston, and I thought he
Yeah,
was superb today. The great thing about Johnston, he's so combative, like he's so up for the fight. I think he's tailor made for Scottish football. Like I think
yeah.
he relishes games like today, and I think it was good that he was showing so much and showing so much personality in the way he plays, as well as being so effective.
Yeah, the physical attributes is something which I maybe didn't see in the first, like in terms I didn't realize how good he is at that. And that's you've seen that in the last few weeks now. He's getting stronger, and the bit in the first half where he went down the line and I think set up Jota who skied it over. But again, that was a great example of pace, skill, the strength to knock the county player off, and then the composure to actually pick out a pass. And he was doing that all game. He was putting in really good crosses. He was getting into dangerous areas. So I think he's just growing more and more in the role. I think in his early appearances he was quite steady. Defensively, we all seen what he can bring. But I've seen in the last maybe month and a half that his overall all round game and his attacking threat as well is really improved. And yeah, I'm really excited to see him going forward. I thought he was our man of the match today, and I think you're right. I think we've won every domestic game in the league by 2 goals at least, and this since the turn of the break, since the winter break, sorry. And I think a lot of the time the game's normally won with the last 10-15 minutes to go, and I think that's maybe it. In the heat of the moment, we're watching it and we're more nervous than the team actually are. You're right. County had a few kind of instances just after the break, but we took control of that game again, and I think 2-0 is probably a fair reflection. There were a couple of instances. Starfelt was a bit more ragged at times than he usually is with his passing, but that'll happen. We're not going to be flawless every game, and I think in recent weeks we've shown a different side to win games. We've had to win a lot of games in the second half. We've came from behind and we've had to today again grind it out, and I think that's important as well, that we've got different ways of winning games, and it's not always going to be plain sailing, but the consistency and overall performance and results we cannot argue with at all.
Asim, I'm enjoying the calmness we're bringing to the channel today. Sometimes on these reactions, Hamish and Stevie, look like they've been through some sort of trauma, even when Celtic are winning, because they've just been so invested in every kick of the ball of the game, and they're coming on the video directly after. But yes,
Yeah.
I do think there was a lot of positives to take from today, even though it wasn't a 90 minutes that went entirely away. Speaking of Hamish, Asim, I'm not sure if he's at a wedding with a breaking news wire, but he has just offered us an update, which I'll put up on the screen here. He says Taylor is just a dead leg, according to Ange, so that's good news. Good update on Greg Taylor if you're watching this and were worried. Also, Brendan Rodgers is away.
Right.
Apparently, Brendan Rodgers has left his role as Leicester City manager.
Right.
So that's some breaking news for you on the channel as well. Thank you for that, Hamish. Asim, anyone else? Any other burning talking points you have from today's game, or any other praise you want to shower on, or otherwise on any of the players? I know we mentioned wasn't quite Matt O'Reilly's day today.
Yeah.
A little bit off at the moment. He's
Yeah.
probably lacking confidence a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on there, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't say it was a massive concern. But he wasn't his best day.
in isolation, it's not a massive concern. I just think over the course of the season, it's been a bit of a stop-start season for him. He's now our only player who's featured every domestic match now, because I think Abada was the other one. This season, it was him and Abada who had either started or came on as a sub in every game, but now it's Matt O'Reilly. I think just in general, obviously he's brilliant when he first came in last season, and this season's been a bit more stop-start for him. He obviously had to play a more deeper role when Callum was out, and then since then Moy's just been so good, so he's not really had as much game time. He scored a couple of goals in recent weeks since when he got his first goal, so you'd think that would kind of bring his confidence back. But yeah, it's just not kind of working for him. Also, the fact that Turnbull didn't start today, despite Moy and Hattati not featuring. I don't know if that's a sign that he's not favoured in terms of like Awata's now even playing ahead of him, so something to look out for. But in general, yeah, I think Jota again came up trumps. He wasn't having his best kind of first half. Not many players were, but took on responsibility with the penalty and put it away. And again, I thought the second half improved as the game went on, and was unlucky not to score a kind of worldie outside the box towards the end as well. So good to see that. And Maida, just being Maida, a constant kind of nuisance. Again, had really good moments when he set up Kyogo for what was really unlike Kyogo to miss that. You had your money on him putting that away, and it would have been kind of plain sailing from there. But all worked out in the end, and yeah, just delighted to get the 3 points. It's been interesting because if you look at it, since we've been 9 points clear since the 2nd of January, and that's been, I think, I don't know how many games it's been, but it's been a lot of games, and we've been kept honest because obviously on the other side of the city they keep on winning games as well. So it's not like one of those situations where it's your chasing pack are constantly dropping points. We've had to make sure and win, and often we're the team playing second fiddle. We're playing the day after. I think that's 17 times this season we played after them. So, and it's only been 6 for them. But constantly we've dealt with that pressure, and we've constantly just done our bit. So it puts us in a right good position for next week. And the month of April, John, we've got 2 big games against them, which effectively don't want to look too far ahead, but are going to go a long way towards a treble if we can win them.
What's our final message here? Is it bring on the Rangers, Asim? Is that what you're telling me here?
It is indeed, and again, a team they've been coming out with all sorts of quotes this week, and the gap's not as big as people thought. So it's typical. We've seen this before, and I think that plays perfectly into our hands. And yeah, bring it on. Countdown is on. 6 days. Looking forward to it.
I mean, at this point, the Rangers players and coaching staff are as well starting a Celtic YouTube channel. The amount of time they spend talking about us. That would be my message as well, as the bring on next week. We'll see how it plays out. I think it's going to be another closely contested game, as it was at Handon, and I think and have faith that we can come out on top again and show, why we are better. I do believe that, and I'm excited about seeing it.
It's very similar to last season, I would say, John. If you remember, we had County away and then we had Rangers at home, and we drew 1 each, and it was the kind of game again where at the end of it, the draw suited us better. I think we came away a wee bit disappointed that we didn't kind of finish the job, but they're going to have to come out and obviously go for the win. And it'll be interesting because, again, like you say, at this point, a draw suits us, but I don't think any fans going to be going in with that, and I don't think Ange and the players will be. We'll be looking to put down a marker and get that win. So yeah, it should be an exciting one.
Yeah, I think that obviously it goes without saying that Celtic Park will be right up for it as well, and although there's no lines there, they will be coming into the Lions Den of sort. I'm excited about next week. I'm excited about the month ahead. We'll have much more on next week's match throughout the week from Hamish when he returns to the channel. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us live today, and thank everyone who is coming to this video a little bit later on and wants to get involved in the comments below. Another Celtic victory, 8 games to go. Can't say fairer than that, Asim. Thanks for joining us, Asim. I'm sure you'll be on the channel quite soon as well. You enjoying being part of 67 AOL this season?
Yeah, it's been great. Obviously, first kind of came in halfway through last season, so kind of enjoyed the full roller coaster of this. And yeah, this is the best time of the season, isn't it? It's when the business end where we've got semi-finals and hopefully a league to clinch in the next month or two. So yeah, it's good times and hopefully a lot more for the channel ahead as well.
I hope we're all smiling next time you're on as well. Thanks for joining us, Asim. Thanks for joining us, everyone else. We are 67 Hail Hail, and we'll be saying goodbye.